John chapter 8, verse 37 to 44. I know that you are Abraham's descendants, but you seek to kill me because my word has no place in you. I speak what I have seen with my father, and you do what you have seen with your father. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth which I heard from God. Abraham did not do this. You do the deeds of your father. Then they said to him, we were not born of fornication. We have one father, God. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God, nor have I come from myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Because you are not able to listen to my word. You are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. Pure and simple. Those that have the gall to call themselves son of Christ, those that claim themselves have the spirit of adoption, or those who claim to have the spirit of reconciliation, it doesn't exist within them, for their actions would show it to be the truth. These people, whether it's back then in the time of Christ or now in the modern day, who claim to be holy, who claim to be Christian, and yet their words and actions don't reflect this, they are not of God. They are of their father and their forefathers, who spoke blasphemies against Christ, who called the Holy Spirit witchcraft, who had the means to tell Jesus he was a liar and was misguiding people away from God, to say that his message of peace, love, unity, and truth tied to the Son of God was worthless. These people are the descendants of the forefathers who made Jesus and his disciples' lives a living nightmare. And you cannot claim the opposite, as your actions speak the truth. There is no truth in these people. There is no light in these people. So far as they choose to remain far from God, there is nothing in them that screams godliness. Jesus Christ has made it clear here that you are not of Abraham. You might be his descendants, but you are not. He is not your father, and you are not his child. Because the beautiful thing about Abraham and his lineage is the fact that all that come from Abraham, and further the lineage of David from which Christ came, they are holy, because God made a covenant promise with Abraham and his wife Sarah. You will be the father and mother of all nations. You and your lineage will make kings, will make judges. You will make powerful people who only exist to serve God and him alone. These people who claim to be from the lineage of Abraham, that those that claim Abraham to be their father act in direct contrast to that vision. They raise up idol gods. They raise up gods out of stone and wood. They worship money. They worship lustful desires and cling to them, straying further and further away from God's light. And yet, they have the nerve to call themselves sons of Abraham. They are not. Those who claim themselves to be sons of Abraham, sons of God, who cry out, Abba, Father, these people have made it known through their actions. They've made it known in their presence alone that those who walk with God, their light shines the brightest. Their works glorify God. They did not make him alive. They did not shun him. They don't make him out to be a fool. They make God great. If we claim ourselves to be sons of Abraham, and if we claim ourselves to be sons of God, we must present this in everything we do and in everything we say, and even everything we think. Let everything we do speak to the glory of God, and let us not claim to be something we are not. If we claim to be sons of Abraham and sons of God, we must understand that with that tagline comes a deep and heavy burden. It is one that does not come free of charge. It came with the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, and it comes with dealing with evil every single day. Spiritual battles that you might not physically feel, but your soul is crying out for a healer. In God's name, you will be saved, but only if you understand first and foremost that those who call themselves sons of God work to push forth the message of God in a clean and beautiful way that does not make God out to be a liar, or that does not make God out to be a sinner. For God's message is one of peace. God's message is one of love. God's message is one of unity. He is looking towards the whole globe with this message. And yet those who claim to be sons of Abraham, sons of God, go out and bastardize his message. They make God out to be a liar. They make God's vision and God's message out to be false. They make God out to be a hateful being, when in reality he is not. Even when he rebukes you, he is doing everything out of love. And if you claim yourself to be a son of God, a child of Abraham, you would understand that to be the truth, that all of God's actions come from a place of love, and that those of us who are in God officially and formally have that spirit within us. The words did not reach these people, so God made it a point through his son to say that you are not of my child, you are not of my seed, you are not of my spirit, because you do not understand the words I am saying. You claim yourselves to be sons of Abraham, sons of the divine, whose covenant reached him all that time ago, who made kings from that lineage. And yet, your actions disrupt the glory of God's work. Your actions and your words make God out to be an adversary, not an ally. So how can you claim yourselves to be sons of God in that moment, or ever, when everything you say and do works against God? You can't. Those of us who truly are in the Spirit, we are born again and we are new. We are totally different than anything else on earth because we are of a higher standing. We choose to make our lives hard in the moment so that when we finally reach eternity, a world without end, we will reap in the glory of God and his benefits. For if we are due to suffer in his death, we surely will suffer in his resurrection. And that the glory that is to come with that resurrection does not mean anything in the pain that we face right now on earth. And yet, these people who try to claim themselves to be sons of God and sons of Abraham, they only look towards their own hedonistic desires for the time being. They don't look in the long term. They're not looking for salvation. They only practice evil and only thrust themselves further and further into the darkness, away from God's light. And yet, for the pure benefit of supposed blessings in God's name, they want that. But they don't want the pain that comes with being a follower of God. They don't want that. They don't want the struggle. They want the beauty of it, but they don't want the struggle. And yet they claim themselves to be sons of Abraham. God is telling you right now, and God is telling all of us right now, for those of us in the modern day, turn your hearts away from evil. Make it a point that when you call yourself a son of God, that those words flow and ream through your body, that it makes it a point that with your mere presence, it screams those words. Because if God is within you, nothing can touch you. Nothing can make your life harder than it already is, as God deems it. If you practice evil and claim yourself to be a child of God, you will face the wrath of God, surely. Unless you do not choose to give your hearts back to God formally and accept the death of Christ on the cross. You cannot claim to be something you are not, when there is no evidence in your words or your actions or your deeds to back up that claim. When you call yourself a child of God, let the world know that formally that your deeds scream this, that your deeds are the forefront of them. Because you can scream words over and over again, but they won't make a dent if your actions do not back up the title. For God says in Matthew 7 verse 21, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven." For those of us who fight against evil spiritually every single day, who fight it against the world's ills, these people are blessed in God's name. These people are called the true sons of God because every single day of their life, they are fighting against something. They're fighting against the devil's influence, and they are not becoming corrupted, giving into the earth, giving into the darkness of this world. They choose to go beyond and transcend to God's calling, in which He has thrusted upon them, truthfully, by their own volition. Those of you who claim yourselves to be sons of Abraham, I am begging you, let it be known to the world that this is true. Let it be known that those of us who are sons of Abraham are blessed with God's blessing and with God's knowledge. That the fear and the understanding of God flows through us first and foremost before we claim anything in God's name. That we understand the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, His Son, and that we know that the Virgin Mary gave birth to Him first and foremost and set off a direct chain of events which led to the modern day in which we are now saved, free from sin, free from indwelling sin, free from the darkness for good, because we made the choice to. If you constantly find yourself going back to the darkness, come back to God first before you claim anything in His name, and turn your hearts away. Because if you do not, and still in time, reaching the end times, claim to be a son of Abraham, God will look at you and formally turn you away, to the point where you can't claim anything, because God will formally say to you, "I never knew you." And that's a line of words you don't ever want to hear from God, because if you hear them, it's over. It's your formal split with Him, and there's no turning back.